Good evening. It's 5:30, January 25th, 2024. Call this meeting of the Culture and Leisure Services Board to order. Ms. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Mary Mosquera.
Here.
Angela Trulick.
Here.
Kathy Parks.
Here.
Joel Fair.
Here.
Betsy Ronk.
Here.
And Larry Holmes.
Here.
Thank you very much. So we have an agenda. Has everyone been able to look at tonight's agenda? Okay. Would anyone recommend to approve or amend the agenda?
I have a question about an amendment. That requires an amendment, but at one of the last meetings, we were discussing. Put it on the agenda or what exactly?
I don't think it would be an agenda item for tonight. We could bring it up in conversation and request for staff to
Right.
go and get,
to
create
Right.
the document and then put it on the next agenda.
And I wasn't sure what I needed in order for us to say, based upon what went on that data.
Okay.
That data will be presented to you. The fee schedule. Right, and that was, I kind of looking back through my notes, I remember that we said. We remembered to do that for the next meeting, so thank you. Good.
Thank you, Molly.
Thank you.
We're back to seconding it, or?
Looking for a motion to approve the agenda as written.
I'll make that motion.
All right, thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Everyone had a chance to review the minutes from our last meeting, which was the 27th of July of last year. Anything that needs to be brought up about the meeting minutes? Nope. Okay. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes. I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. Looks like we have two more items on our agenda, so we'll move into item number 3, which is to interview the board applicant, Ms. Angela Raymond, and recommend appointment for council as appropriate. Ms. Raymond.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you? I can hear you, but is the mic on?
Turn it on.
There we go. Now it's on.
I think someone else is controlling it.
So far, you passed the first test. Well, thank you for joining us. We have your application in front of us. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and about why you'd want to serve on this board?
I'm Angela Raymond, and I've been here since 2005. I love the city of Cape Canaveral. I'm very interested in culture and leisure. I sat on the appearance board for about 6 years, and I also was elected to city council in 2017, and I sat on city council for 6 years. And I think I understand how the city operates. I have a good relationship with the city staff, and especially people in culture and leisure services. I have been a big promoter of the arts. I voted in favor of the community center, and it was a 3-2 vote. And I voted in favor of the construction for the community center, and also for the Arts Center and the Civic Hub. Again, a split 3-2 vote. So I definitely showed my support by those votes. And I'm a tennis player. I've played nearly 50 years of tennis. And I have played competitively in St. Louis, and I play on a senior league here, and we play as competitively as we can. And as I said, I'm very interested in the arts. In St. Louis, I was a friend of the Art Museum, and that's a prominent art museum at Forest Park. It's one of the oldest in the United States. It is in the building that was for the 1905 World's Fair.
Okay.
As I said, I think I know about ordinances after my 6 years of experience. I also served on the executive board for Space Coastal League of Cities for 6 years. And representing St. Louis, I was a voting delegate for Florida League of Cities for the city of Cape Canaveral. And I was on Transportation and Intergovernmental Affairs for 6 years with the Florida League of Cities. And I think I could be a lobbyist, for the city of Cape Canaveral.
Fantastic.
It takes a resident to actually go to the legislative meetings up in Tallahassee, or perhaps an elected council member.
Okay.
And I think Rocky Randalls did a great job when he was the mayor. As I said, I'm just very interested in culture and leisure. I'm interested to see the Arts Center, and I'm interested to see the Civic Hub completed, as well as Veterans Park. I did part of the public relations for the grant for Stetson University for the Rain Garden also. And I've done other things for the city. Kathy Parks will tell you she accompanied me one time because I was nervous about going to the Audubon Society for an interview. And that was a scary one. They had a big, huge canyon. But I think I did okay. I can talk anyway.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Does anyone have questions for Ms. Raymond?
I have a question. Being that you spent those 12 years with the city, and I assume that you spent the first 6 years on the advisory board, like you said, what did you find as the council person to be the biggest obstacle faced with any of the advisory boards? And how would you see yourself as able to help to resolve those types of obstacles?
I don't think that there really are many obstacles. I think that we often heard from the different advisory boards and often took most of their suggestions, not always. I know, for example, and I can give you one good example that has to do with culture and leisure. There was option A and option B offered for the plans for Veterans Park, and I went with the option that was chosen by Culture and Leisure Board because I thought that was the respectful thing to do. I don't think that council always agreed with the advisory councils every single time, but I always have. Usually, I should say usually, there have been other cases where I did not take the advice of an advisory council, but I took the advice of a lawyer.
No, I guess part of where I was also curious was that from your perspective on the council, it never seems to be that we get much direction here on the advisory board level saying, this is something that the council really wants you to work on or look into or whatever. Did that seem to occur a lot with all of the boards? Do you think there was enough direction from the city down?
I think
to
so.
involvement.
I think one of the things that we have to remember when we're a council member is that we need to stay in our lane because the staff has certain plans and they have gone through a process also before they even present it to the council, and then the council will say yes or no. But I think that it's important for council members to stay in their lane and to let the staff do what they're supposed to do. So I think we have to be very cautious and respectful of the staff, and I think part of that need also for board members to make certain that you have a good relationship with the staff. And we got direction from the staff, and I think for council members, I think we gave direction, because I mean, we've given direction for the Civic Hub, and I remember giving direction for Veterans Park, and some of the other issues, of course, planning and zoning, they get a lot of direction because of the meetings.
Well, thank you. No, I guess I just wanted to get your opinion if, what we're doing is what we should be doing and the advice that we should be offering. Or, if not, what could we do better?
I think you're doing a fine job. And, I think the director gives you the proper instruction about what needs to be done. And then I also think that the residents do, because this is one area that the residents will speak up about, because the residents know what they want, they know what they're looking for. I mean, our residents wanted a community center for 60 years. And I think they're very much in favor of the Civic Hub, Veterans Park. And I think that's what we're doing. We're doing what the residents want.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
I don't have any questions, but I wanted to say that I think we are so lucky to have the benefit of all your experience, and you will really be able to help us get a bigger picture where things go, because you've had experience in so many different areas of the city. So thank you very much for volunteering even more for more years. Thank you.
Well, I just want us to move forward. And as I said, I think we are. And I love the sculpture over in front of the library. I love Cape Canaveral. I think everybody knows that. And I mean, if you need a better cheerleader, well, invent one.
I just had the question about Space Coast League of Cities, but I didn't know what the acronym was for, but now you've already told me, so I got that question answered. The other comment that I would have is that I hope that you're overqualified with being able to sit through 6-hour meetings, because we're not planning on doing
Thank
that.
you.
Okay?
I couldn't resist.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much, Hazel.
That's a skill she won't need here.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I have a dinner to attend. So, excuse me.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time. All right. Any discussion items? Anything that you want to discuss about the nomination or moving forward with?
Is there, whose term is up, or what's the opening here? I guess
We're one short currently.
we are one, okay.
Yes.
I wasn't sure where we were.
Currently, we're one short. Yeah. No one's getting voted off. Only on.
Voted off the island?
So, yes, we're currently one short. If we fill that last board members, we're completely, we met our quorum. And so that's what we're shooting for. All right. If no further conversation, we can have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Motion to approve, to
Approve Angela to be on the,
recommend.
LF.
Sorry, I think the motion would be recommend Ms. Raymond for the board.
City council.
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Unanimous. Fantastic. All right. Last action item. I'm sorry. I was remiss. We jumped and skipped public participation. And I apologize. Is there any member of the public that would want to address the board for anything having to do with culture or leisure services that is not the last agenda item, because you could do that then? No? All right, perfect. All right, the last action item, number 4, approve the proposed 2024 Culture and Leisure Services Board meeting schedule. You should all have a copy. It's towards the back of your packet. The current suggested schedule would be this meeting, a meeting on March 28th, a meeting on May 30th, a meeting July 25th, meeting in September 26th, and then November's meeting would be the only one that would not fall on our normal last Thursday of the month, and that's because the last Thursday is Thanksgiving, so we wanted to move that up to the 21st of November. Any thoughts, any questions, any reasons why we would not want to go with the current proposed schedule?
Well, I have a thought.
Okay.
And I brought this up in July when we met, and then it ended up happening. And I looked back through the calendar, and we have not met in Septembers or Novembers for the last couple years. So for whatever reason, people like to be busy then, and obviously Thanksgiving and people travel or whatever, I don't know. And so would it be wise, instead of always, in the past years, we've missed 2 meetings in a row, September and November. So would we be better off to skip those 2 meetings and have a meeting in October instead? With the hopes that we wouldn't be going so long from, like we did this year, from July to January. That's 6 months. And if there is something that needs to be addressed, or like last year, the city council asked us to have a special meeting, and we could not accommodate that because we couldn't get quorum. And so I guess I feel bad if we aren't available to do our job. So that's why I thought, well, maybe it would behoove us to see if we could do something about being available in a better time frame.
Is it possible, though, that we will have quorum because we'll have one more person, we'll have the board filled?
I don't know. I know Angela because she's my neighbor. They travel a lot. So I don't think it's right to expect, a new person have to be the one that's going to pull us over the line either.
Right. I do think that adding another person changes the.
It does. It definitely does.
I mean, do we know
possibility, increases the possibility.
how far off we were from quorum in those times? I know I was one of the ones that was absent a lot because I was working on those days, but I won't be this year probably.
I don't know, because I don't think they ever told us, what the situation was.
I understand the concern. I think one thing is, per the bylaws, the expectation is that we would meet 6 times throughout the year. Is that correct? Is it per the bylaws, or is that just common practice?
I think it's common practice, and I actually followed up because the bylaws have been something I've kind of been confused about since I started, because if you pull them up in Laserfish, it's actually done on a typewriter. And when I was 7. So I got some clarification because I wasn't sure what the other boards did, and we're always like, for the last couple years, especially with the change in leadership, my objective was to get us better in line with what council does. That way we're not having to recreate the wheel. When you guys make a recommendation, I can literally take the verbiage from that cover sheet that I've provided to you guys and put your response or your recommendations in with it and paste it into the one for council, because it's all the same. It's just, a different heading on it. And when I spoke with Mia today, she informed me that as you probably have seen in other records, this used to be called the Recreation Board. And what I learned today was that when it became the Culture and Leisure Services Board, it was part of a broader reformation, if you will, of all of the city boards. And with that change where city manager, Mr. Green, I guess when he came here, all the boards were a little different. Some of them had 5, some of them had 7, some of them could never get quorum and they got rid of them, or they sunsetted them, like what happened to the library board. And at that time, with that ordinance, it wiped all of the bylaws clean. So we don't technically have any bylaws except for what is present in our code. And I'll have to look at our code to find out if it actually gives how many meetings a year, because I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
But anything that was in the bylaws is pretty much considered null and void, because one of the things that the bylaws talks about is appointing, I think it's 2 alternates for every board, and that was consistent with some of the other ones I found, community appearance. There was another one that was, because we're not a quasi-judicial board, so we're a little different, like planning and zoning is quasi-judicial. So he made everything the same, that wiped everything clean, and the only thing that we have to particularly adhere to is the code. So if we would like to adopt new bylaws, we're able to do that, or you're able to do that, and we're here to support.
So am I understanding the city is not going to create new bylaws that cover all advisory committees? Is that what I understand?
I am not aware of it if they are.
So that's for us. Do you know if any other advisory boards have adopted a new set of bylaws since they were wiped by
do
the
not know.
previous city manager? Okay.
I can find out, though.
What we've talked a little bit about this with what would guide us, and I think that it would be worth trying to set up another meeting, a special meeting, to go through the bylaws and say, hey, what do we expect for guidance? And if we don't have any bylaws right now, what is the code? And even if that's, because we're not supposed to meet outside of these meetings,
So how do you kind of do it?
we can make a motion to have another, actually,
You can.
we can make a motion to have a special meeting. We have to give a certain amount of lead time so that everybody can know, and we can post that it's gonna happen. And then we can gather together with the intent of doing a workshop on what do we want our bylaws to be. We can have the old bylaws, we can have the code, we can say, what do we wanna do? Turns out that
So you don't think there's any consensus that, rather than to be redundant from group, to just create one for all city advisory? I mean, that seems to me to be the route to go.
That would be a decision for council.
And so it's not really ever been brought to their attention that to
I have
rectify that problem?
No idea. I have no idea.
Because,
I
it
would
would
have
be
to
kind of
ask.
like a real waste of our time to go start down that road and then find out, oh, well, now they've decided it should be consistent amongst all boards, which it should be, I would expect. I mean, that you would think in the city it should be consistent.
but
without
I might have some,
Go in their own
couple
way.
things, because one's we're non-judicial. There's a,
Right,
the other
right.
ones have some actual jurisdiction. But I agree, and it's probably worth being brought to city council
Yeah.
to say, would you like us to create our own? Would you like to have a general, and that might be, we could send this up the line to them from this board, asking for a recommendation from city council on bylaws for the advisory boards. And they may say that they don't think it's necessary, and if we come back and we say, well, we do want a little bit of guidance, we could create that, or we could say, you know what, if they say it's not necessary, then it's not
We
necessary.
just do what you want.
But one of the things I think that I wanted to make sure that got brought up is that we could have another meeting that, because I know you've brought up a couple things, well, what are we doing? We can have special meetings, we could call for a special meeting where we could look at bylaws or look at the way something's written and then together come up with a plan. So that is an option. Most of the time, what we do is we'll take staff's input, and if we have a question for them, we turn it back over to them to create this fee schedule or amend the fee schedule or get this data. But there's a couple things that we could actually do as a board. Bylaws would be one of them.
Yeah, I guess before we go down that road, I think it would be worthwhile to get more guidance from council or something to say, maybe it's not a high priority to them, so it hasn't really come up, but.
Yeah.
But I agree, Joel, it's kind of like, if they were to say, oh, well, I guess we weren't aware that there wasn't any, and there really should be something that's standard, some standard city language that guides these committees. Even if it means to have a workshop with people from each different committee coming together and putting something together, that's fine. But, before we go that way, I guess I'd ask somebody else for their opinion.
I'll take it to the city manager and get his guidance on it, and he'll review it with the attorney, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked at the bylaws for any of the groups?
None of the other boards, I've never had any involvement with any of the other boards.
Has anybody ever read them or
I have,
published or
they're all available on Laserfish.
on what?
Laserfish, the city's public records database.
Okay. There's nothing, if we have no bylaws, there's nothing technically saying we can't meet, right? Or is that a statute, Florida statute?
What do you mean that you can't meet?
It was, like Joel was saying, that we can't meet outside of this room.
That is sunshine law.
Sunshine law. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's a separate part of that.
That's a big one.
That's a Florida thing.
Yeah,
So
that's how you
what's
can get in
prohibited.
trouble. Yeah,
But can you send a copy of the old bylaws to us?
of course.
And we can look at them and see if, do we need bylaws or don't need bylaws?
Yeah, you just can't go down to Ellie Mae's as a group and have a conversation about them.
It's kind of like when you send
Yes,
We can't just-
yes,
these things out to us, the agenda and all that,
yeah.
request to
I
send
would
it.
be happy to.
Okay.
Okay.
Will you also have the code on there so that we can see how much different, or how much more the bylaw goes into detail than what we've been given with the general code?
The code is like 4 sentences.
Okay. I probably still need it. If you don't
It-
mind.
Well, it wasn't that memorable for me to commit it to memory
Okay,
either. Because when I looked at it, I was like, well, this is kind of vague.
Okay.
And in the words of the clerk's office, if the code is silent on it, then it is on the board to make decisions that best meet the needs of the board in the interest of the community.
Okay.
And if that's the way the city wants to keep it, then that's fine, I guess, then at least we know what
Yeah.
direction it is.
Right.
But being that, you're kind of saying, well, everything is very old and therefore it's kind of been dismantled, what direction do we go?
Story of my life.
That said, do you want to motion to change the schedule? And then we could vote on that. Or we can, I'm good with the schedule as is. I think what Ms. Mascara is saying about having another person on the board might actually help us being able to meet, well, statistically, it will help us be able to meet quorum more often, but if you want to recommend, or if you want to motion to combine,
So moving forward, we'd have to have 4.
It's half plus 1 of the seated board. If you have an empty seat, it doesn't count.
so
you'd have to have
before it was 4,
A 4 is a quorum then.
with 6 it was 4,
With 6, it was 4,
and with
And
7 it's 4.
will be 4.
Yes.
because it's half plus 1.
So that's true, we have a better chance of
How do-
hitting it.
So is it 5 with 7 then?
No, it's 4 with 7.
4, it's still
Okay.
half plus one.
I was thinking originally it was
be
five,
five
it
with
would be
eight.
five, but now it's.
I would think it'd be
It's
five
just-
with eight.
So it's the same quorum, we just have one more body,
Right,
one
so,
more person to
so
fill.
then it might be easier to make it. I was thinking originally with one more, we would be, you know, we would
More
have to go
people.
to five, but if we have to, if we stay with four, then we might be okay.
Yeah, and the last, well, since those bylaws were written, because those bylaws made mention of having alternates for different boards, the ability for the city to get people onto boards has been challenging, at least since I've been here, since 2014. And I don't imagine that it was much easier in the immediate years prior to that. So I'm positive that the last bylaws I looked at that mentioned alternates were from the 80s. So when we started having our own issues with having vacancies, and I think the Community Appearance Board had issues, and then there was one other, the Community and, not Economic Development, the Economic Development Board also had challenges. At one point, they were down to 3 members, which meant 2 people made quorum, but they had to make the determination that, you know, you can't count the empty chair when you're looking at quorum, you have to count the members seated.
Okay.
And that came from the city attorney.
So I suppose then if there happened to be an increase in people wanting to be involved, there's nothing that says you couldn't have alternates then.
You would need to bring in bylaws, new ones. Because I don't think the code is vocal on alternates.
So then you'd have to create bylaws to say that you're allowing and you could do that by committee,
I
by
believe so,
board.
but I would have to double check with the city attorney because we've not been in that
I mean, not that
situation
we've
for more
had
than a
that
decade.
problem, so maybe you just don't even worry about it, but I was just curious, yeah.
Yeah. Would you like me to ask the city attorney?
Could ask. Just in case. Get lucky.
So we're at the point where we're voting on keeping it the same?
We just need a motion that would say
Keep it the same.
Yeah.
to approve the schedule as written.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve,
I'll second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much. All right, we are on to staff reports. Mr. Mayberry.
All right, we've got several. We have several tonight, starting with the baseball field. We're on track for the light replacement for the field. We just got our final bid sent in today, and so I've notified them that we're ready to proceed with the purchase of the materials, and then it's going to be a question of scheduling the removal of the current lights and placing the new ones up there, which we hope to do in-house. That's going to be the approach we take initially anyway, and see what we can do. And hopefully by the end of March, as we were talking about at the ball field the other day, that it'll be completed. The next is the Patriots Park upgrade. We are in the final stages waiting for notification, unless Molly got it today, of shipment for the playground parts that are coming in. We've got to remove the older stuff that's broken down, get that out of there. That's on schedule for the guys to do. The last we heard, the tentative date for shipment was going to be today, and then they moved it to like February 2nd. So we're hoping that it's going to be in the next week or so that we start getting those parts in. But we've got the specs in from the company that's going to do the installation, so we know what we have to do to have everything prepared when they get here and plan to. Wagner Park, we found, and this, Molly reminded me before the meeting started, this is something that we took over from Public Works. Initially, that park was maintained by them. We found out about before Christmas that the benches over there had deteriorated to the point that it was to some degree danger to people sitting on them. So we've had them all removed. Public Works removed them all. Molly ordered the new benches. They're here. And that went on the schedule today to get done. That's a day job.
I'm sorry, where is Wagner Park?
Wagner Park is on North Atlantic, just below, or north of Harbor Heights, in the Mexican restaurant.
Okay.
It's with the butterfly thing. Oh, yeah,
Okay.
that one. So that's coming up quick. Manatee Sanctuary Park, the 2 restrooms there, the guys redid those. They went in and repainted them, ground the floors down even, and they've had those redone, resurfaced. So that was a much needed facelift. And people there so far have been very complimentary in their comments since it's been done. Tennis courts, we have had issues with the lights, so we haven't been able to run our night leagues until we get this taken care of. And this is a problem we've been running into since the pandemic. It's hard to get contractors. I made the comment with Kathy that I'm on the phone, and that's usually what I spend most of my day trying to get contractors to respond to us for different projects we have going on. And it's hard to do. It's hard to get them to commit if you can even get one to talk to you sometime. But we finally got our 3rd contractor to come out today, and hopefully we'll have a bid by the 1st of next week for them. That'll be our 3rd one, and we can make a choice and get those lights repaired. The company that they were purchased from has agreed to provide what are they? Drivers, yes. The drivers as a warranty. And we can't tell if there's anything further than the drivers until we put the drivers in. So that's what we're doing now, is replace the drivers in those lights. We've done one, and we've been lucky it corrected everything in that light. So we're hopeful that we get the same thing.
You're doing that in-house also?
No, we don't have capability of what we do, but the bucket truck that the city has is in the shop having the engine rebuilt, and then they just found out there was some problem with the bolts and the transfer, so they have to be.
Okay,
Yeah.
We couldn't wait for it any longer.
got it. Thank you.
And then Sandpiper Park, Molly and I met with Dave Coulter from Infrastructure Maintenance and talked about lights over there. So we're in the process of ordering lights, more of the bollards like we have along the sidewalks in Canaveral City Park, ordering some of those, and a couple of upright lights inside the park itself. Also, we are, now we were going to just replace that fence that we put in temporarily last year. We were just going to do a straight run back there, but now we've decided, because we're down the road, we're going to do changing out of playground equipment in that park also. We're going to need to have access to it, so now we're going to put a gate in. We'll be able to take equipment in and out of it. So that's another meeting I got to have with the contractor to come out and give us a change order on his quote. And I mean, that's enough. But that's where we are right now.
I had a question about the Veterans Memorial Park.
Yes, sir.
They're building it right now, and before they had 4 symbols for the different militaries. Are they going to have the 5th for the Space
Yes,
Force?
they're all in my office. If you'd like to come over and see the new one, come over and see me at Nancy Hanson. I've opened one up to see what they look like, and it happened to be the Space Force. It's pretty neat looking. It reminds you a little of the old Star Trek emblem, but very nice. The company that manufactured them did a really good job.
That's great, thank you.
Yes.
John, could I ask you one thing?
Yes,
about
ma'am.
Manatee Park. That playground equipment is not in good shape.
Yes, ma'am. I thank you for
It's
bringing that.
dangerous.
Yes, ma'am. We ordered the parts that we thought we need, or that we told the company we needed. They didn't send us all of them. They sent the upper parts, but not the bottom where we can attach everything. So I've taken their diagram and circled what we need and sent it back to them. and told them that we need that in order to affect the repairs that
Yeah,
need to be
that-
done out
that-
there.
I
But,
go
and
over
again,
there
now-
all the time.
Yes,
I
yes.
don't let Kalani get on half of it.
Right, and we've got, you know, you notice we got mulch out there in Manatee, in the playground area, over at Banana River, and also at Sandpiper. And we have mulch on order for Patriots Park, once we get all the changes done in there. So we're working on it, and it's in
Okay,
play.
I was just
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for
been
reminding me.
concerned about
It's-
that.
Yes,
Well, and there's one swing over there, it's a great big blue
Right.
one. And it's got you got the buckle things, but there's nothing to stick them into.
right, right.
That's,
John, I just wanted to let you know, when you talked about Wagner Park, I live right by there. And even though it may be the smallest park of all in the city, it gets an awful lot of use, because so many people who walk and ride their bikes there, and people who wait at the bus stop. And because it's all native Florida plants.
Right.
It's always just, people are always walking through, and they used to sit down. In fact, I was walking through there last week, and I was amazed that there were no more benches. So I was excited to hear that
It did-
benches will come
It
back.
generated phone calls right away after, after they were removed, but, yes, ma'am.
It's a great little park, because before it was just an abandoned little patch of land, and now
It was
it's
kind of in between us, and Ian and Brian
Right.
would get Linda Ham, but it was under Public Works, and so now we're taking it over, and it'll be incorporated into our regular routine with maintenance.
I just wanted to let you know, it's a wonderful little
Yes,
park.
And one thing we're adding to it is, we're only replacing 4 of the benches. We have, that park actually won an award because of its native plant species and the monarchs that it attracts.
Yes.
So the Monarch
Yes.
Society actually gave us an award for that park. So as part of the Veterans Park renewal, we have a monarch sculpture that we're having one of our talented ladies over at Infrastructure Maintenance refurbish and recoat with anti-graffiti stuff, and it will be installed there. And I am working with our sustainability folks to come up with some good verbiage, because they're the ones that actually, did the legwork to get the award, so that the people know why there's a random monarch sculpture there, because it's not random at all. It's actually very much part of that little park. So, yeah, it was a little upsetting to get the phone call, hey, we removed the benches, because that was my first indication that anything was wrong, because it wasn't our department to inspect. So we got very fortunate that that happened the week of Christmas, and I actually got all the benches on sale. Who knew that they did Christmas
sales
holiday
for
sales on benches, and I did score a good deal on trash cans as well. So, yeah, I'm looking forward, because that is a little gem, and it does get a lot of traffic.
Yeah, I also would just commend the maintenance crew that you guys have. Brian and Ian, they work really, really hard, and they do a
They
good
do
job.
yeoman's work.
And they're always running, all over these parks, and yeah, thank you.
Where is Sandpiper Park?
Sandpiper Park is over at Canaveral City Park by the community center.
Oh, so
The
it's like
splash
the
pad
playground
is just
part
right
of
over
it.
the little park right off to the,
Okay, got it.
yes, ma'am.
All right, any more questions for John? All right. Molly?
I like it when John steals my thunder, it shortens my list. I will start with something kind of random. I'm not sure how many of you remember Aaron Lady, that used to be my partner in crime, if you will, over at the Leisure Services. He got called up, he was a reservist, so he would periodically leave us at the worst times possible, and we ended up losing him for a good chunk during COVID, but during that time, he was offered an opportunity he could not refuse, and he got the ability to stay local, and he is now a member of the Electromagnetic Warfare Squadron for the Space Force, which is based out of Cape Canaveral. It's the 114th, and they reached out to us. You might recognize them in plain clothes because they often serve beer at Friday Fest to raise money for their youth programs that they have on base. And he approached us and said, most of our members that work with me are residents, and they live in our community, and they want to do as much community outreach as possible. They found out that we were putting a Space Force emblem out as part of our revamp on Veterans Memorial Park, and his commanding officer approached us and said, well, will you give us our own day? And so council declared January 14th to be 114th day, and that will be a day that they annually come out and do some community service projects. And they will also be working with us when we go to celebrate and rededicate Veterans Memorial Park when that project is complete. So I just wanted to let you know that was, when you brought up the Space Force, I'm like, not only do we get to include them, but we actually have people in our community that are actively serving the nation and actually the world right here in Cape Canaveral. So, and we get to keep Aaron, kind of, so.
Where are they based out of? St. Patrick or?
Right up here at Canaveral. Yeah, they actually invited city council to come up and take
On Cape Canaveral Space Force.
Space Force Station. Yeah, I don't remember what building they're near, but they gave us a small tour. Obviously, they couldn't give us the full shebang, but they debriefed us, and for those who appreciate such things, they actually took the logo from the Thundercats. So they changed the color of the eye. I guess the military, they said the military is allowed to do that. So it's kind of fun. The mayor got a patch. I asked for my patch. I'm still waiting. But the next big thing, Cape Center. You guys all received an invite for the soft opening tomorrow. We couldn't just open the floodgates. Our capacity in the main gallery is only 80 people, so it didn't take long to get close to that with the handful of people that we invited, plus with a +1. So we will be announcing the date of the grand opening, which is in March. We are currently working with UCF and just made a new contact at Valencia. I don't know why I always forget about them, but they're a great resource, especially for their arts department. And we're going to be working with them, kind of a twofold project. One project is directed towards their arts students to develop a backdrop, and then the other part of the project is to develop the interpretation panels for an exhibit on our indigenous communities that were up and down the coast here, to include the ones up on the Cape. Ms. Ronk, you will be very happy to know that I have a whole list of things for you to do this year. So we'll start with next month. You will review, or the next meeting, which is in March, we'll review our fee schedules that we put in place last year. We've got some updated data. We've changed the way things are set up in RecDesk to make it a little bit easier, so that it's not 50 pages of senior day, non-senior, non-resident. Like, that was too much. So I'm hoping that the numbers look a little bit easier to understand with this one, and we'll get a good handle on what changes we've made and how they're doing. We will also be doing election of board officers. That would be something that we typically do at this meeting, but since we were interviewing one more person, I wanted to wait until we had a full board, just in case we had people that wanted to move things around. Assessment fee schedule. We will also be doing, in the coming months, a selection for the new sculpture that'll go out in front of the library. That is a 2-year program. That way, after 2 years, it goes back to them and we get a brand new one. So that will be coming up, and that will be for this board to decide. We will also be looking at reviewing the outdoor event entertainment code. That has been something that's been a challenge for me since at least 2014. It's hard to enforce something that nobody knows about. And then by the time they know about it, we've already violated it. And it makes it incredibly difficult on our emergency services personnel because they're the ones that really matter when it comes to outdoor event entertainments. It's fire and police that tend to have to do all the heavy lifting. So we have met with all of the stakeholders involved, and now it's going to come down to this board to look at how we can kind of firm it up, because the code doesn't have any teeth at this point. It just says you need to have submitted this paperwork on this, by this date, before this event. And it just kind of leaves it at that. And so without us being hard-nosed and just saying, okay, well, your event doesn't happen, because nobody wants to do that, especially after you find out that some local business has just invested a ton of money to host an event, and now the city's like, you're not doing it because you didn't do this in time because you didn't know about this code. So we've done a lot of brainstorming on this with a lot of the other departments that are involved, and now we're ready for your board to review and make suggestions. We've got some other examples from other cities. We have some examples of different categories of events so that it's not as intense for somebody that's doing a wedding with 6 people compared to somebody that's trying to do a rock concert. So, but the code's in place for a reason. We just need to give it some teeth so that we can actually enforce it and have our emergency services personnel be able to respond to it in a timely manner.
So you'll have some documents or something to share with us to
I will have
look
lots
at?
of documents for you.
I figured.
Another thing that you guys will be looped in on is the upcoming CIP workshop. CIP stands for Capital Investment Project. We will be regrouping on a couple different items. The Sandpiper Park playground equipment got pushed to next fiscal year. So in looking at that with a fresh set of 2024 eyes and inflation rates, we're going to be making some adjustments to that. And there's about 3 other CIPs that I've been tasked with reviewing and presenting to the council for their consideration. And that's all I have for the moment.
Well, thank you. Any other questions for Molly?
So are those projects things you're saying they would want to have some ideas on for the budget that starts in, that this summer, is that the 25 budget?
The 24-25 budget?
24, 25?
That's why we do it nice and early. That way, you guys have a chance to review it, they have a chance to mull it over, and then they begin that process, which is multiple budget hearings and all of that.
Like the maintenance guys, the leisure and Parks and Rec staff are doing an amazing job. All of them. With the Cape Center coming online, I mean, you guys are working really, really hard, and it's seen by the community. So thank you, and please pass that and let them know that it's great to be in this community because of the hard work that you guys are doing. So thank you very much.
I will definitely pass that along. I feel that since I've taken this position, that it's been a lot of just getting all the ducks in a row that kind of ran off over the years. And I'm starting to feel a little more confident that we're getting on the right track. There's still a couple parks that I'd like to address obvious issues at, but it's a process. So, my goal is to not just maintain what we have, but improve what we have, because a lot of the stuff hadn't. Sandpiper Park is a perfect example. It along with Patriots, that equipment's been there since the 90s. We're lucky that it's still in the shape it is. And then you have that the free playground equipment, as we'll call it, that Gustavo won in a contest at Manatee Sanctuary Park that's been there less than 5 years and is falling apart. So getting things that are are more resilient, that are smarter designs, smarter constructions, because we do have very unique circumstances out here. The environment just absolutely eats everything. I mean, we're even, buildings that are only 1 to 2 years old are already, our preventative maintenance is needing to be stepped up, because it's a rough world out there. So, maintaining what we have is my primary goal, and making it as nice as possible while we work to slowly correct things like outdated equipment and all of that.
Thank you. I did have one other question. The review, when we go to review the outdoor event code enforcement, does that include outdoor events that would happen on the beach? Like, is that under the city's cognizance? Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay, I was just wondering. That's helpful to know, even as we discuss it and look at it.
And that's one of the things that'll be for you guys, and we'll present all of our discussion on it. One of the most common requests that we get is beach weddings. We don't really have anything to support a full beach wedding, not like Pelican, I think it's called Pelican Cove or something, Indian Harbor Beach, where they actually have like a little beach house that's only for events, and they have all of the facilities there, restrooms, kitchenette, all that. We don't have that. So when people contact us about having a wedding on a beach, a lot of times they're picturing something in their head that's not exactly real. Like,
what we've
they
got
want to
here.
have a June wedding in the middle of turtle season on the beach in Cape Canaveral. And I'm like, well, first of all, it's 1,000 degrees. And second of all, it's turtle season, and there's no bathrooms. And I'm not quite sure what your plan is, but then we end up having to kind of walk them through the reality of having an event on the beach in the summer during turtle season, and then they change their mind. So there's a lot of different tiers that we need to kind of put into that code that aren't there now, because like I said, whether you're having a beach wedding or a rock concert, you're filling out the same form and the same information, and that's not exactly accurate.
All right. Anything else for discussion? Okay. Anyone want a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Woo-hoo.